You check your phone before leaving the house. You open a map before driving somewhere new. Without it, you might feel lost within minutes. But for almost all of human history, there were no maps, no roads, no street signs, no GPS. So how did ancient humans know where to go? The answer is far stranger than simply following the sun. For hundreds of thousands of years, your ancestors crossed forests, deserts, mountains, frozen tundras, and endless grasslands with astonishing confidence. They reached nearly every corner of the planet long before anyone drew the first map. So what were they using? The answer wasn't something they carried. It was something they became. Their world itself was the map. Imagine standing on an African savanna 50,000 years ago. Every direction looks almost identical. No skyscrapers, no road signs, no city lights, only grass stretching toward the horizon. If someone dropped you there today, you would probably panic within an hour. Yet ancient humans could walk through these landscapes for days without getting lost. How? Because they didn't see the environment the way you do. To them, every hill had a story. Every unusual tree meant something. Every river bend carried information. Even the smell of the wind could tell them they were getting closer to water. The landscape wasn't empty. It was full of invisible signs. Every journey also had a purpose. Unlike modern people who sometimes travel simply because they feel like it, ancient humans couldn't afford unnecessary movement. Walking burned calories. Calories meant survival. Every step had to be worth it. They traveled to find food, fresh water, shelter, stone for making tools, or herds of animals that moved with the seasons. Because these journeys happened over and over again, the routes became deeply familiar. Children learned them from parents. Parents learned them from grandparents. Entire generations memorized landscapes that stretched hundreds of kilometers. No paper was needed. The map lived inside people's minds. Modern scientists now know that your brain is naturally built for this kind of navigation. Deep inside your brain is a small structure called the hippocampus. Think of it as your internal map maker. In 1971, neuroscientist John O'Keefe discovered what he called place cells. These special brain cells become active whenever you're standing in a specific location. Move somewhere else, a different set of cells turns on. Your brain is constantly creating a living map of the world around you. Then, decades later, scientists Britt Moser and Edward Moser made another incredible discovery. They found grid cells. Instead of recognizing one location, these cells create an invisible coordinate system, almost like graph paper laid across the world. Together, these cells allow you to understand how to get back. The three scientists were awarded the 2014 Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine because their discoveries explained something humans had been using for hundreds of thousands of years. Without even realizing it, your ancestors didn't invent navigation. Evolution built it into the brain itself. But your brain alone wasn't enough. Ancient humans also learned to read the environment in ways most people today have forgotten. A mountain wasn't simply a mountain. It was a giant landmark visible from dozens of kilometers away. A river wasn't just water. It was a road that naturally connected different parts of the landscape. Certain rock formations became permanent reference points. Even a lone tree standing in an open field could become one of the most important landmarks for an entire community. Then there were the seasons. Ancient humans knew that the world was never truly random. Animals migrated at predictable times. Plants flowered in familiar places. Fruit ripened in the same valleys every year. Rain returned with seasonal patterns. If you understood these cycles, you rarely needed to guess where food would be next. You simply followed nature's schedule. Anthropologist Louis Binford, who spent years studying hunter-gatherer societies, found that successful foragers weren't wandering aimlessly through the wilderness. They possessed an extraordinary mental database of the landscape around them. They knew which valley held water during drought, which forest produced edible plants after heavy rain, which cliffs attracted nesting birds, and where dangerous predators were most likely to appear. To an outsider, the land looked empty. To them, it was covered in information. But the land wasn't the only guide. The sky helped too. Long before telescopes existed, people noticed something remarkable. The stars moved in predictable patterns. Night after night, season after season, year after year, some stars always appeared in nearly the same part of the sky, while others rose and disappeared with the changing seasons. By paying attention, ancient travelers could maintain their direction even during long, nighttime journeys. The sun was equally reliable. It always rose from roughly the same direction. It always set in the opposite one. Throughout the day, shadows slowly changed position. A skilled traveler could estimate direction simply by watching how light moved across the landscape. Even smell became part of navigation. Today you probably notice strong smells like smoke or perfume. Ancient humans noticed much more. A river has its own scent. The ocean smells different from a forest. Wet soil carries a completely different smell after rain. Grasslands, deserts, swamps, and pine forests all produce unique combinations of scents carried by the wind. Experienced hunters could often tell they were approaching water long before they could actually see it. Sound was another powerful clue. Running water echoed through valleys. Bird colonies became louder as people approached lakes. Different insects produced different soundscapes depending on the environment. A sudden silence could even warn that a predator might be nearby. None of these clues worked by themselves, but together they formed an incredibly detailed picture of the world. Perhaps the most fascinating navigation system ever created came from Australia's Aboriginal peoples. For thousands of years, they developed what researchers call songlines. These were not ordinary songs. Each verse described a journey across the land. Every hill, every waterhole, every bend in a river, every mountain, every important landmark was woven into the lyrics. By singing the song in the correct order, a traveler could cross enormous distances without ever needing a physical map. The song itself became the map. This idea appears in many ancient cultures. Instead of carrying directions carried them in their memories. Knowledge passed from one generation to the next through stories, rituals, and repeated journeys. Children didn't learn navigation inside classrooms. They learned it by walking beside experienced adults. Every trip became another lesson. Every successful journey strengthened the invisible map inside their minds. Memory wasn't just useful, it was survival. This way of navigating also explains one of the greatest achievements in human history. How did humans leave Africa, Europe, and Asia